Hello and welcome back to the CashPT Lunch Hour podcast. This is your host, Aaron LeBauer, and today my special guest is Mike Reinold. And I've been trying to get Mike on the show for years, so I finally cornered him and somehow got him to come spend some time with us. So Mike, thank you so much for joining us on the CashPT Lunch Hour.
Yeah, thanks, Aaron. Thanks for having me. Always obviously been a big fan of your work for years, and try to spread the word about all the good things that you're doing, because this is getting people to the cash-based kind of mindset is certainly something that I think is going to be great for a lot of people and our profession. So people like yourself that are really leading the way have been awesome for us. So I know I've learned a ton from you. So hopefully your audience can get some nuggets from our conversation today.
Awesome. Thank you very much, and thanks for the compliments. Appreciate it. Tell me, where, you've been doing a lot, and so I want to get a little get a little idea about where you came from, and then why you're doing what you're doing, and then where you are right now. So tell us, I always like to start, why did you choose PT anyways? Was there something, was it high school, college, after? Was there something that happened? You're like, I got to do X, Y, and Z. What's that journey?
I think in high school, I remember I took an anatomy class. I think it must have been junior year, right? Because you apply for colleges for senior year. So I must have taken it junior year, but I took an anatomy class, and I think I've always been a little bit more sciencey, versus math or language or, history type stuff. So I've always been more sciencey. So I took an anatomy class, and I'm like, all right, this is pretty cool. I think I want to get into something, health related. And, at the time, I don't know about you, but I was 17 when I was a freshman in college. I don't know, I feel like everybody's older nowadays, but so I was probably 15 years old when we were trying to figure these things out, right? Which seems crazy. So I'm like, all right, let me do some health stuff. I looked into it, and, it was a few things. And I think physical therapy and athletic training kind of popped to the top, because like a lot of people, you want to try to combine your passion for, health and science and sports probably is probably what I was getting into. So I looked into it, and be honest with you, I applied to as many schools for athletic training as I did for physical therapy. And I kind of, just wanted to see, I wasn't 100% sure which one I wanted to do. And I did some research and kind of, fell into physical therapy and kind of, lended it that way. So I think it was, not a big reason. I think I just, was trying to figure out a way to do something sciencey and sports kind of put together. So that's.
So you were a big baseball fan growing up?
Yeah, in Boston, it's easy to be a baseball fan, I was a Red Sox fan and stuff like that. So try to put those things together was what I was, shooting for. So, I think it was that simple. And then, man, in retrospect, it's kind of crazy, right? That a 16-year-old kid tries to make a decision on what they want to do for the rest of their lives, right? So I have a lot of classmates in college that aren't physical therapists anymore. Just because they're I got into it and I didn't like it. But this was back before there was an undergrad bachelor degree for me. So, we weren't mature and didn't know grad school now. I think you want to do it. But in my generation, I know a lot of people, they didn't even like it. They
What year did you graduate college?
It was 2000, but Northeastern's a 5-year school. So. It was a little longer. So crazy though, right? A lot of people just you get your clinicals, you're like, oh crap, I don't really like this. Right. And you're stuck, So, but yeah, that's kind of how I got into it.
Yeah, right on. And then, so you went to Northeastern, you got your degree, and then did you become an athletic trainer too, or you just did PT?
Yeah, no, so I got my ATC kind of during the late college, and then after I graduated, took the classes I needed to take and got all the hours and sat for the board. So, got my ATC shortly afterward. Yeah.
Right. And then did you work for the man for a while and then go into baseball? You worked for baseball, you're kind of still doing some stuff with baseball. You've done the Red Sox, White Sox.
Yeah, lots of socks, lots of colored socks. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I kind of, when I was in college, I kind of said again, all right, I want to get into sports. I wanted to get in baseball. So I tried to figure out what was, how do you do something like that, right? So I remember in college, the Red Sox had a physical therapist, which is super weird in the 90s, right? That was super odd that they had that. I don't even know why they did, to be honest with you, because I don't think any other teams really did. So, I reached out to him. I met with him for like, a day and just, picked his brain about stuff. And then I tried to find out like, who are the leaders in baseball sports medicine? And, I found the American Sports Medicine Institute down in Birmingham, Alabama. And, Dr. Andrews, the surgeon that does all the sports stuff, and Dr. Fleissig, the biomechanist, and Kevin Wilk, the physical therapist, and I went down there and I did a research project at ASMI. I did a clinical rotation down there as that. And then I ended up staying. I did a fellowship with those guys and ended up staying on and worked there for a long time. Back in the day, that was Health South. Yeah. And, I guess nowadays there's very similar types of companies like that. But we're talking like the mega corporations, the mega physical therapy corporations. Off the top of my head, I think they had 2,000 clinics at the apex of their, of their thing. Right. And I remember at the time, I mean, we were churning out people. It was crazy. Everybody had a partner in our clinic. We were at the flagship, like corporation or Health South was in Birmingham. And, it was, probably, easily 25 to 35 patients a day in an 8-hour period. Wow. I think my record was 40 patients by myself with no help, like no partner that day.
No text or anything like that?
No, not that day. He called out sick, but it was like 40 patients in the day. And in that, I'm not kidding, we would have like 6 to 8 evaluations. Yeah. And that was like every day. Now, don't get me wrong. Like the current generations of students are actively trying to avoid that, right? Right. And that's what all our students say. They're worried about their work-life balance. And like, I get all that stuff here, but as painful of an experience that was, it was also amazing in so many ways. I mean, you learn so much when you're thrust into that situation. And look, we made it work. Would I do it that way? No. Do I do it that way now? No, of course not. I don't think that was the right model to do it, but you learn so much, and it was such a great learning environment to be that like active that, it's a great experience. I'm glad I've moved on, but like, I kind of tell them my students nowadays too is, don't avoid the big corporations or the big hospital systems where you have to treat a lot of people a day. Students are asking that now. They're like, well, I don't want to treat that many patients a day. And I'm like, oh God, I'm like, you got to learn somehow. Right. So right. It's a balance, but that's kind of how I started my career. And then obviously I had an opportunity to get into baseball, and that completely changed everything because now I'm, working in professional baseball. I got a job with the Red Sox, and you're traveling full time. I was with the team 24/7. So, it was a crazy job, but you go from like seeing a ton of people all day to just seeing like a small group of people, but seeing them every day. And believe it or not, that gave me an amazing educational opportunity because now you get to see how people respond more. Like, so I may do treatments for an hour on a guy, and I'm going to hang out with them for the next 8 hours. So I'm going to know how they feel 3 hours from now, 6 hours from now. And again, it just gave you a good learning perspective on how to do that.
That's amazing input or feedback,
Yeah.
I thought it was, you get feedback consistently for the rest of the day.
Right. And then you take all those and you take your experiences, good and bad, and then you shape how you want your life and your practice and all that stuff to kind of go forward. And I've definitely moved on, right? And happily moved on to our current situation. But like, I'll never take those things back. And I think if I went in and started my career seeing 10 to 12 patients a day, I think my evolution into this process would have been so much slower. So, right. I don't think anyone's seeing 35, 40 patients a day anymore like we used to like back in the day, but like, don't be afraid to work hard and see a ton of people at first because you get a lot of reps and a lot of experience with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I saw 43 patients one day.
Yeah, right. By yourself?
Yeah, by myself.
Yeah.
And I was about ready to leave at probably 7:30 or 6:30 and the basketball team walked in. And so, I was like, so 8 guys got on my schedule for the next hour and a half.
Yeah.
On my CIs. And it was just like, I was there till 10 o'clock at night doing notes.
Yeah.
It was crazy. But at the same time, like all those bad experiences, like I wouldn't be who I am, right. And know what I don't want to do unless I like worked, 7 to 10, 5 days a week and put in a ton of hours, which,
right. See,
People
but
like,
remember this though, like all the kids, they look at you and I right now and they look at what we have going on and they want it today.
right.
What they don't realize is it took me 20 years to get here,
Hmm.
right? And it took a lot of blood, sweat, and tears to get to this point in time. So, put in your time, but have a master plan is kind of what I say. Don't rush the master plan, but put yourself in a position to succeed and get to that end point. And that's the better way to do it.
Would you say it's almost like a hockey stick where you put grind, 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 and then success is like,
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. You get to a point, everything's like that too, like savings, like retirement stuff, like it's like you're working, 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 and you're like, oh, I've reached autonomy or I've reached whatever it may be, and that was my biggest objective leaving baseball. Everybody always asks, like, I kind of got my dream job like early in life, right?
yeah.
Like, my late 20s through like my, late 30s, I was working in pro baseball and everyone's like, wow, that's like the best job ever. Like, what are you going to do next? Right. And I'm like, you know what I'm going to do next? 4-day work week, right? And like that, and that's it. Like that was like my objectives changed over time. So I'm still working to get to a 4-day work week, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, that's awesome. So right now, you own Champion Physical
Yeah.
Therapy as Performance, right?
Yep, Champion
With,
PT Performance. Yep, up in Boston. Yep.
with Lenny Macrina.
Yep.
You were saying before, you guys now have about 5 PTs. Does that include you, and are you still treating patients?
Yeah, that includes me. I mean, there's 5 of us total. We have 4 strength coaches as well because we have a big gym that's part of our facility as well.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Lenny and I have kind of grown it. It was just me at the very beginning, and then me and Lenny for a while, and then we slowly added. Dave Tilley joined us, and then Dan Pope joined us, and we're bringing in the right people, even though like they weren't our students. We were bringing in people that we knew like followed us and learned from us online. So we knew they had like the right thought process.
Right.
And then we actually even brought in one of our students, Mike Scaduto, and he's been part of our practice now for a couple of years. So, we've been growing pretty good. And heck, man, cash-based practice, I had no idea what to expect. I didn't know if it was going to succeed with just me, let alone 5 therapists. So, we're pretty ecstatic and humbled that it's been working for us.
That's awesome, man. Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah.
What was the thing that made you decide, okay, I'm going to do it cash-based and not insurance?
Well, I think the biggest thing is you say to yourself, you gotta, all the books like that you read on starting a business. Cause when I do something, I go all in. Right. Mm-hmm. So I'm all in. Like if I'm like one day I'm like, hey, I want to, I gotta edit some videos from my website. I am going to take like a week-long master class in Final Cut Pro. You know what I mean? Like I'm not going to just go in and learn something. I'm going all in. So with the business, I went all in and learn these things. And like, you read the generic advice. They're like, all right, step 1, like, what are your core principles? Like step 2, what's your mission statement? Like stuff like that. And at the time I was like, this is, I don't know. Do I need to do this? But like, I kind of did it. But then it became really clear when I've been through so much. I've worked in the professional realm where you work with a multidisciplinary approach between multiple different providers like strength and athletic training and physical therapy, chiropractors and physicians and all that stuff. You put everybody together in one room. I see how much that helps the outcome. Mm-hmm. The other thing was obviously is that like, well, like I have a certain set way that I want to do things. So it became really clear that taking insurance and letting insurance contracts dictate how I treat people or what I do with people wasn't going to fit our core values. Mm-hmm. And that was very clear from the beginning. And that was our primary reason why. Now, don't get me wrong. Lenny and I say this all the time. We are leaving money on the table. We would be making way more money and we'd probably have like a bunch of clinics now if we'd started an insurance-based practice, but we didn't want to live that way. And more importantly, we didn't want to treat that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point. Say that again. Because like people don't realize that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure you're doing fine. We're doing fine. We're very happy. We could be making way more money if we went insurance-based and just churned out people and hired new grads to just churn out more people. That's how you make money, but that wasn't our primary objective, was to make money. And honestly, in my career, I've never once made decisions based on making money. And I think if you do it that way, you end up accidentally making money, right? It's going to happen. But you do what you value, and then hopefully it clicks and you'll get rewarded for it.
And you guys are doing okay. Like,
Yeah, we're doing great. Yeah, I mean, we're
yeah.
thrilled. And, and our physical therapists all love it because we all have autonomy in a cash-based practice.
Hmm.
Like we haven't once had a conversation with any of our therapists about their productivity because I really don't care, right? If you don't want to work, don't work, right? Like if you want to work, work. You want to hustle and see 20 people a day, go bananas, right?
Hmm.
But, like it also gives people a lot of flexibility. So most of us, as you know, I mean, we all have like an online presence. We all do education. We all like to travel and speak. So going cash based allows us to be able to do those things and not have to worry about like quotas and doing those sorts of things. Like
Right.
we have more autonomy over our time. We're not taking the day off and sitting out by the pool, right? We're taking the day off and we're traveling to Chicago to go consult with the White Sox, or we're speaking at a course in Iowa or something like that. You know what I mean? So it gives us the autonomy to practice the way we want. So
That's
that's
awesome.
kind of how we think of it.
So, speaking of that, like, what is it that, how do you incentivize your staff members? Is it they get do they get like a percentage of what they treat, or, and I'm assuming because you're not limited by insurance, you can pay them a more fair rate than, maybe you
Right.
might get going to
Yeah.
get like a
It,
staff job at a mill.
Yeah, and so we're in a pure eat what you kill model, right? So you
Mm-hmm.
get a percentage of the revenue,
Mm-hmm.
right? So the therapist gets their percentage. So again, if they want to work really hard, they can crush. If they want to go a little slow, that's possible too. And
Mm-hmm.
Dave Tilley's a good example, right? So Dave Tilley's got shiftmovementscience.com. He's big in the gymnastics world and he's trying to get bigger in the gymnastics world. If he worked at an outpatient orthopedic clinic down the street,
Yeah.
there's no way they would let him work 25 hours a week. And so he can dedicate 15 hours plus, he's way more than that, to doing his website and his gymnastics education. That
Mm-hmm.
just wouldn't allow it, right? You have to be a productive full-time therapist, right? So, he says, look, I'm going to treat people for 25 hours a week or 20 hours a week, whatever it may be. And you have the flexibility, and you can almost calculate it. Somebody just asked me in my inner circle, like on my website, they asked me the other day something about like, they're trying to start a cash based. They were asking some advice and we were talking about finances. And I said, look, think about how much money you want to make a year, right?
Right.
And don't be greedy, just like what's a nice, comfortable amount, right? And then divide that by, how many weeks in the year and how many hours in the year. And you're actually going to be really surprised at how achievable that is with a cash-based practice. That's like 3 or 4 people a day,
Right.
right? With a lot of vacation. So it's it all just depends on what you want to do.
Right, right. That's awesome. And then, how did you get to the point where you knew you could even bring in Lenny? Because you said before you weren't sure it was going to work for yourself. So, what was
Yeah.
the point you started to believe it was going to work for you? And then, what was the thing that allowed you to bring on other PTs?
I don't know if I yet believe it's going to work, even though it's working. You know what I mean? I think that's part of being a small business owner. I lose sleep over my employees. Like, are we going to slow down? Are they going to suffer? Or do we have to let go of a strength coach because the gym's not doing well? Like, that's how I lose sleep right now. It's not about me. It's about them. I don't know. You still always have that fear, but you just, I don't want to say it's blind faith, but like, we got to a point with me where it's like, all right, I'm pretty full. I got a lot of people. Let's bring Lenny in. Lenny moves back to Boston. He's from Boston, but he moved back to Boston, knows no one, no connections, no people, no doctors, no gyms, no coaches, nothing, right? So Lenny initially has no patience, right? And we start essentially just kind of like taking some of mine and shifting them over to Lenny. Now, once you work with Lenny, he's great and he's awesome and it works. And then they start talking, they start telling their friends, their family, then he starts networking with doctors and coaches and stuff like that. And it clicks. And that's how it works. But it's a little bit of a leap of faith. We brought in Dave and Dan, right? They kind of already had some online presence, so they kind of just, kind of rolled with that. But the one that's the great example was Mike, Scuduto. I mean, he was a student of ours when we brought him in. The structure that we use is Mike kind of like helps me a ton. So next week I'm in Chicago with the White Sox for the week. All my people are seeing Mike. Right. So we inherently keep Mike busy because of that. But then over time, he's slowly growing. He's got a golf niche and he's got some people that are working with him. So he's crushing it because we keep him kind of full. So, I think that's how we kind of scale it it's the ability of, it's like, all right, well, I can shift some of my people over there. And I think that's how it's worked best.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, how do you like? like, I know the fear that you have. It's like you wake up,
Yeah,
shit, there's no one on the schedule,
of
or,
course.
or the bank account or the number that I'm looking at is like not the same as last year, or, maybe it means something different. Like, how do you, like, that's normal for you. Wouldn't you agree that's normal for pretty much any business owner, right?
Yeah, if you don't have that, you're probably a really bad business owner, right? You're probably going to run into trouble.
Yeah.
You got to be a little fearful, right? And Lenny will laugh. We're like, I'm the most conservative budget guy in the world. Like, if we're not blowing our budget out of the water, then we didn't budget well, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be like plus or minus on the budget. Like, I want to like, all right, here's our number. Let's just knock it out of the park. This is
Right.
it's almost like we budget for drop dead. Like, we're going to go out of business if we don't hit this number.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of how we do it. But yeah, I mean, that's a constant fear. I mean,
Yeah.
it's the employees that get me for sure. It's like I don't want to see them suffer or be slow or anything like that.
Yeah. How do you manage that? Like, is there something you do during the day or time of day that you worry about it? Or like, is there something like trick that you have that you can share
Just
with them?
stay busy. No, it's one of those things. I mean, we haven't really faced any critical issues. It's just more fear of the unknown. But
Right.
we talked about this briefly before we started recording. But I mean, we're in Boston. It's a big market. There's plenty of people to go around. We all have strong niches. And good word of mouth kind of referrals. So like, I think at this point we're pretty good, and it's gonna keep succeeding. But like, you always have that kind of doubt in your mind. So I mean, the only thing you can do is just always focus on just exceptional delivery of your services, and just have confidence that it's going to succeed over time. If you're a jerk, or you're not good at your job, or you stink as a physical therapist, yeah, you better be worried, right? But like,
Right.
you're probably going to not be in a cash-based practice if you're one of those.
Yeah. So tell me, Mike, you also do online, you teach online, you have an online business doing education. Like, did you start that before your clinic or after?
Oh,
And,
yeah.
and what inspired you to
Yeah.
do that?
I've been online for over 10 years now with like my blog. I mean, we were just starting to look these things up, because I think last year was my 10-year anniversary. I'm over 1,000 blog posts in that time. Like, it's kind of crazy. I mean, I've essentially been putting out 2 articles a week for 10 years.
Wow.
So consistent. But I got super lucky, right? I was like first to market. But I always tell everybody, like, I was in pro baseball. I went from being in a setting where I was a clinician, a researcher, and an educator. We'd work all day. We'd do research projects at night. We'd get them published in journals. We'd travel around to speak for seminars. We'd present our research at APTA and stuff like that. It was very, very much a clinical researcher, right? Then all of a sudden you get into pro ball, and I'm 24/7 focused on that. And I have no time to do any of those things. And you can't travel, can't do anything. So I started my website just almost as like an outlet for me to continue educating. And that's what I wanted to do, is I really wanted to be able to continue to educate people, because that's what I'm passionate about. And I also think it helps make me better by focusing on always learning and growing, right? So I started doing that, and I just started sharing what I was learning and doing it on there, and then led to online courses. And we have a bunch of stuff now that we do online, from memberships to specialist programs to our detailed comprehensive programs. We had all these things. So we educate, but we own a business. We actually still work with people. Like, we're real, right? Like, champions are petri dish, where we get to practice all the things we teach. So many people get into education and they stop treating and doing stuff. And in 10 years, you're like, when was the last time you've actually worked with somebody, right? Because like, do you even really know if that still works? Like, you kind of just saying stuff. So yeah, so we take pride that we do both.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Is this, and apparently this is something you went all in on, right? Or is there like,
yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I'm still all in. I do. So believe it or not, like, everything on my website, like the graphic design and the website and everything on there, I do myself.
Oh, wow.
Because I want to, right? I actually like that. I'm probably more introverted than people realize. I don't treat patients every day, because I also focus on the education. But like, I just, the last few months have slowly kind of like updating the website. And I'm telling you, like, sitting in front of my computer for 4 hours and working on the graphic design of my website was actually like enjoyable for me. So it's good to be able to shift gears and work on your creative juices to do those things.
That's awesome. Are you still playing NHL Live 95?
Yeah, I haven't in a while. I bet you we could probably find like a Sega Genesis somewhere on eBay or something now to do that. Funny, yeah.
Yeah, we played NBA Live 95 in college. It was awesome. And, and it was great. Latrell Sprewell was like the jam.
I think I remember that. Yeah, there were some good ones back then. Those were the days.
Did you get Sega thumb?
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I remember those days.
That's awesome. So, tell me, like, what are you up to now? What's right now? You're consulting with the White Sox. You got Champion PT and Performance. You got your clinical education stuff. Is there anything else that you're
Yeah, I
doing?
mean those are my big ones. I mean, champions like the day to day. We get a big like physical therapy clinic and gym. We do sports performance. We do a lot of baseball training and other sport training. So that's kind of like that's our main kind of like our home base. MikeReinold.com. That's where I do all my education. So it's like I work with people in person and then we educate. With Champion, we started a bunch of like online stuff where we actually have like online training. If like you want to follow some of our programs from a distance, so we have that. So we do a lot online, and then in like kind of fill in the gaps. So like I've been consulting with the Chicago White Sox. I'm kind of helping them rebuild their medical department and their analytics and their sports science stuff, and mentor their younger staff and stuff like that. So it's pretty rewarding now. I feel like in a career I'm at a point now where I've hit my top. I'm on the descent. And I'm totally fine with that. I'm descending in terms of like my career. And now my whole objective now is just like to try to help other people, right? So, I sign on to work with the White Sox so I can help all of them achieve their goals, right? Mm-hmm. The assistant athletic trainer's dream is to become a head athletic trainer somewhere, then I'm going to try to help mentor them to get there, right? If one of the PTs at my clinic wants, their dream is to start like a golf performance website, then I'm going to mentor them to help kind of get there. And that's kind of like how I've been kind of using kind of like my energy nowadays, is trying to help kind of go in that direction.
That's awesome. And it's really important to do that because, I've ran in my career, like I'd look for a couple of mentors, had people say, "Oh, I can't help you," or "I don't want to help you."
Isn't that crazy? That's
yeah.
pretty funny. Yeah. Just like, I don't know. That's for me, it's really not about me anymore. I mean, we put the things in place and now it's about helping others achieve. And look, if we collaborate and we work on some stuff together, we're both going to prosper. Don't get me wrong, but like, it's more about like, I want to have everybody that's working with me at all these facilities, I want them to all leapfrog me. And that's kind of what Kevin Wilk did with me for an extent, right? Like, Kevin was my mentor and he kind of taught me a lot of things. And then, over time, like, I think the goal is that you always leapfrog your mentor just as you all grow. And I think that's really the goal that I'm at.
Yeah, that's awesome. I always tell people, like, do it better than me. Like, do this and do it better. Like, you got one better, like, good on you. Because
yeah, exactly. And that's what we're going to do now. I mean, like, I've found something that works for me. I found like the way I treat works, right? I learn it and then apply what and make it better, right? Mm-hmm. Because I'm not saying what I do is perfect, but it works for me. Now you make it better.
Yeah, that's awesome. At what point did you decide or realize that you were going to become an entrepreneur? Did you like sell baseball cards when you were younger and that's been in your blood for a while? Or did you, go figure?
It's pretty funny you said that. I always have been like that. And I think Lenny could probably tell you more stories. We actually grew up together, more about that sort of thing. But yeah, I mean, I remember doing weird things like in elementary school, like selling stupid things. I don't even remember the specifics, but I definitely remember like running little micro businesses in elementary school and stuff like that, just on whatever scale that was. Mm-hmm. So I guess I've always kind of, thought that way. But, I mean, after you leave pro ball and you get to that point, like at that time, I felt like I was almost more unemployable just because, you have too many things you want to achieve and what you want to do. Right. And that's usually not going to meet the objectives of your employer half the time. So, and that's kind of one of like the main reasons why we kind of did this, is we wanted to do it our way. Right. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, we wear shorts, we wear sweatpants in the winter, we're playing rock music. We literally for like an hour, we were talking about like different strategies on how to deal with a zombie apocalypse yesterday. Like that's like it's totally how we want it to be. And I think our clientele likes it that way. It feels like a training room. It feels like a clubhouse. It feels like, you're at home as an athlete. And I think that's why they like coming here. Athletes don't necessarily want to go to an office building with drop ceilings and all these bright lights and curtains and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like they want to feel like athletes. And I think that's kind of like the vibe that we try to create.
That's really awesome. If someone else wanted to do something similar, you were going to, give someone advice on whether they're starting a cash practice or scaling their business, online business, like what's the number one thing you would say to someone else who's a physical therapist with some passion for whatever, even let's say it's even hockey, like what would be the number one thing that you would recommend that they do if they're starting out or even just trying to scale up?
I mean, there's a ton, but if there's probably one thing, I think your fastest way to succeed is probably to be really good at a strong niche, right? And just kind of like really focus your niche. Now, you can have numerous ways of being like having your niche, right? The niche could be like a population. So like I work with female athletes, female high school athletes or something like that, right? It could be that detailed. It could be a sport. It could be I work with baseball players, or it could be like a technique. Like, I don't know, like you do like, I'm the expert dry needler in my city or whatever you want it to be. I don't care what it is. I'm not judging what it is either, but have a strong niche and start it that way. And if your strong niche actually coincides with what you're most passionate about, it's going to work. Mm-hmm. Like if I picked a niche that I didn't care about, right? Like working with like water polo players.
Yeah.
Because like, well, I'm right next to, here's a good example. Our first facility we were at with Champion, we were right next to a fencing facility, like fencing, like the sport, not like build a fence, right? And fencing's kind of big up in Boston, right? And it's a great sport. I'm not passionate about it in any way. So I could have said, well, I'm going to specialize in fencers because they're right next to me. So it's these, like low hanging fruit, but I'm not passionate about it. So I'm a baseball guy. I can talk baseball. You come to me for an evaluation and we start talking about like your spin rate and how much sink you have on your two seam. Like there's a pretty strong connection that you establish with your person because you're passionate about your niche. So if you want to have a shortcut to succeed is have a strong niche that you're passionate about, and you're probably going to do a lot better job because everybody's going to be excited about it around you. Patients, everybody else that comes in the facility, they're all going to be excited. So that would probably be my number one goal. It's going to be hard being a generalist unless your niche is that you're the generalist in your small little town. Mm-hmm. And maybe you're in the middle of nowhere and there's just like 2 hospital systems. Your niche can be the, hey, I'm the one-on-one person in this little world, right? So, but generally speaking, I mean, if you try to do that in a bigger market, I think you're just going to be diluted.
Yeah. That's a great point. A lot of people are too afraid of turning people off because their message is too specialized, and really it's the riches are in the niches.
Yeah, I think so. And trust me, again, I'm sure you did too. At the beginning, we were fearful of this too. And we probably let in more people than we wanted to, right? Like I always tell the story. We've even fluctuated our pricing quite a bit. And I was like really expensive at one point. And I'm like massaging venture capitalists' backs. And I'm like, this isn't my dream of a cash-based practice, right? Could I do it? Did it work? Absolutely, right? Like we could do it, but like, man, this isn't how I wanted to spend my time. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, if you're a generalist and you're going to do it that way, you're probably going to treat general people. If you love that, that's fine. We have a current student, somebody we were talking about, being mature in his age. He's doing a great job with us. And he said, I go, what's your specialty? He's like, you know what? I think I want to work with like more of a outpatient geriatric population that wants to still like be athletic, like down in Florida in a retirement community. And I'm like, OMG, that's amazing. I'm like, you know how easy it would be to become an expert at total hips, total knees, and, geriatric training stuff and helping those guys. You can make such a huge impact. That's a huge niche. So he's like, I am the guy that every person, or any athletic person over 65 come see me. And that's a great niche. That's a great niche. Yeah, so yeah, awesome. I definitely say it's scary to niche, right? And you're always scared at first, but trust your gut, maybe pay the bills a little bit at the beginning, but slowly close those doors to just that niche and you'll do a good job. Yeah,
that's great advice. Mike, what question didn't I ask you that you think would be a benefit to our audience?
Oh man, I don't know. I mean, I for cash-based practice, in all honesty, like what we get a lot of questions where we also have a gym. So I'd say that's a big one. I know there's a lot of cash-based practices that are just like an office building or, whatever, something, smaller. Everybody asks us about integrating the gym. I would say my biggest piece of advice for you and for anybody with that sort of question, how do you do the two together? How do you blend performance and rehab? Is we built a gym and then added physical therapy. I think that's an important component. We kind of just mentioned it with the athletes a little bit, but everybody opens a PT practice and then puts a squat rack in the corner, right? And nobody wants to work out in your office building. Right? They want to work out in a gym. So we're in an industrial park. We are in a warehouse. Right? We have 30-foot ceilings. We have no air conditioning. You know what I mean? Like we're a little bit more, we're a different vibe, right? So if you want to do the gym and you want to put them together, I think it's really important that you open up a gym. You hire strength coaches and personal trainers that can run that aspect of it. The last thing you want to do is be a dorky PT trying to do fitness on adults and you don't understand personal training, right? Like if you want to do that blend, go all in and then add PT to it, and it tends to work a lot better than if you just think of it the other way. Maybe that's semantics, but I think that's been part of our success with the gym.
Yeah, that's great advice. That's awesome. Mike, I want to be respectful of your time. So just before we finish up, let me know, like, if people want to get some more information about you, where do we find you online? And
okay, I'm easy. That's the best one. I'm just MikeReinold.com. And I think I'm at like Mike Reinold at everything, but like MikeReinold.com is kind of my website. And again, blog posts, we have a podcast now where we answer questions from our readers. We have a ton of online courses if you want to like specialize in like the shoulder, or we have a brand new like performance certification program that we're doing. We're teaching people like our whole system of how we like, assess movement and then optimize performance at Champion. So that's all at Mike Reinold. And, I'm all over social media. We educate a bunch on like Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all that sort of stuff. But just my main website's the easy hub to start with.
Awesome. And then I guess let me ask you this one last question.
Oh boy.
What's next? What's your 5-year plan?
I don't know. It's a good question. We were just talking about this at work the other day. I seem to get bored like every 7 years, and I'm looking for a new creative thing.
Yeah.
No, in all honesty, what's next for me is I'm cutting back on what I do and trying to spend my time, again, helping others. So I think what I'm going to do is just grow out my mentorship a little bit and start doing a little bit less for both the people I work with and even my family. And just like trying to spend more time doing that. So my 5-year plan is I'm going to be the assistant volunteer varsity softball coach at my daughter's high school. How about that?
That's awesome.
I'm going to go all in. We're going to have full sabermetrics like going in this high school softball. It's going to be sick.
Awesome. That's really cool. Well, thank you so much for being here today and sharing your time with us. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Aaron. Thanks for having me. And again, anything I can do to support, I know you're helping everybody. So thanks, man.
Yeah, appreciate it. Knuckles. Hey, this is the CashPT Lunch Hour for Aaron LeBauer and Mike Reinold. Go all in and don't let anything hold you back. See you guys next time.